Hello everyone, welcome to my kitchen. My name is Michael. Today we're going to be making a chicken pot pie soup. This could not be any easier to make. And if you don't roast your own chicken, it can come together really quickly if you get one of the rotisserie chickens from the store. But I've got my Emil Henry chicken roaster here. And this is probably one of the tools that I use the most in the kitchen because I love roasting the chickens in that. I use my house seasoning, or I've got my lemon pepper seasoning that I make. If you've not seen either one of those two, how those are made, I'll put the link in the description box below. Go check those out. This is nice making them at home because you can put the seasonings on them you like. You can put some lemons on the inside of them, some rosemary, some thyme. That would be really good in the chicken. Just stick it in the cavity and put it on the rotisserie here. Put it in the oven, and then it is set to go. So I'm just going to put my house seasoning on it today, and I'm going to use my clean hand here, and I'm going to turn it over here and put some on the back. And if you wanted to, you could rub some under the skin as well in the meat. I'm going to put some down into the cavity of the chicken. That'll be really good also down in there. And if we get all the seasonings on it, if I need to go get some more, I'll go wash my hand and we will put some more on it. So definitely season it up how you like it. I'm going to put some down into there and just rub that down into that cavity of that under that skin. I am going to go wash my hands and go get some more of my seasoning, and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I did wash my hands. You want to make sure that when you are preparing chicken that you don't contaminate everything in your kitchen with that. So once I use this, I'll throw what's left of this away because you don't want to get anything contaminated to put it back into what you were using. So I'm going to go ahead and put some of this under the skin here, and then I'm going to massage that in with my hand. Put some more on this side. It's going to make that nice and tasty. That breast meat there will be nice and flavored with that. I'll put some down here on this side. I want to thoroughly give it a good bathing of the seasonings. All right, I've got all of my seasoning now on my chicken. I'm going to move it over here, and I'm going to put it on my chicken roaster, and that just slides on there just like that. If you want to tuck the wings under, you definitely can, and that'll keep those from getting burnt as that is roasting in the oven. Before I put my chicken in there, I have gone over and washed my hands. I wanted to let you know that I do have this sitting on a roasting pan here, one of these half-sheet baking pans. That's just on there just in case the juices from the chicken, if it fills up this little tray here. I have never, since I've cooked chickens in that, had that to happen, but you never know, that could be a first. So definitely, if you're going to use the Emil Henry chicken roaster, I would put a pan under it, and that just makes it bake evenly. You've got an even distribution of that heat on that pan, and I'm going to put this in on that lower rack that I've got in the oven. You've got enough headspace for the chicken to sit in there so that it doesn't hit the top of the oven. All right, we'll put this in there. I'll come back and I'll let you know how long it takes. All right, I've got my chicken cooking now in the oven, and I'm going to have some bread with my soup tonight. So you can definitely get all different kinds of breads. If you're at the store, you can actually pick up the baguette type breads if you want to use some of those. That would be great with this soup. I have a lot of videos on my channel because I love making bread at home. And if you want the artisan type bread, you can definitely check out one of those videos on my channel. If you have never made that before, that would be really good with this. I'll put that link in the description box below. I'm actually going to be making biscuits to go with mine tonight because I think that's going to be really good with mine. Kind of has that same doughy effect with the biscuits that the crust would on a traditional chicken pot pie. So I'm going to show you how to make the biscuits. If you've never made biscuits before, I've got a really good technique. I never could make biscuits. I tried and tried and tried when I was a kid. My mother and grandmother made the best biscuits, but there was something about the technique that they did. I could never get that down. Mine would turn into little bricks every time I made one. My grandmother stood behind me and says, okay, now do this, do this. They would put everything in the bowl, put a well in the middle, and then knead everything with their hands, pulling it in. Never could get that down right. So I've got a technique that I use, and I'm going to share that with you today. So I'm making a double batch. What I don't cook tonight or not use tonight, then you can put that in the freezer. So if you want to make a double batch like this, and what you don't want to bake, if you don't think that you'll eat all of them, then definitely take those and freeze them, put them in a baggie, and you've got them whenever you want to. Pull them out and cook them whenever you want them if you're running short on time. If you want to go ahead and bake these, you can do that also. What you don't eat, put those in the freezer, bring those out, let those come up to room temperature, warm them up a little bit, and they're just as good as gold as when you made them originally. I've got a bowl and I've got a colander that I'm going to be using as a sifter today. I want to sift my flour together. So I'm going to go ahead and measure out 480 grams, and if you don't have the scales, then you want to measure out 4 cups. I've got my flour measured out now, and again, this is all-purpose flour, and I'm going to set my scale to the side. I've got 2 tablespoons of baking powder. I'm going to put that on the top. I've got 2 teaspoons of salt and a half a teaspoon of baking soda. And I want to sift all that together. Now that I've got that sifted together, I'm going to take a whisk, and I'm just going to whisk that together just to make sure I get all of those ingredients combined together. Now I'm going to be using butter in mine tonight, and you want that as cold as you can keep it. So I've got 2 sticks of butter in the refrigerator. I'm going to go grab those, and we'll put that into our flour. I'll be right back. Now with your butter, like I said earlier, you want that to be as cold as you can possibly get it. So just leave it in the refrigerator till you get ready to use it. And I'm going to show you a little technique here and trick to cut this up so that we can get that incorporated into that all-purpose flour. So I'm going to take a sharp knife here, and we're going to run down the length of it here. And I'm just going to cut that right down the middle, just like that. And then I'm going to take those 2 pieces, and I'm going to turn those 90 degrees on its side. And we'll take that knife again, and we're going to run that down just the complete length of that right there. That should give you 4 long strips of your butter. And at this point, we just want to cut those into little pieces, and that'll be about 1/4 of an inch on those. And just go down the whole stick, just like that. And with that, you should have something that looks like this. And we're going to go ahead and put that into our flour. And I'm going to do the same thing to this other stick that I've got here. Now that we've got our butter pieces and our flour, we're just going to take those, and we're going to make sure that we get all of those covered with flour. And if you get some of these pieces that are together here, just pull them apart because you've already got them cut up there. At this point, we're going to take our forefinger and our thumb, and we're just going to press them together like this. And you want to work that all the way through all your pieces of butter, and we're going to work that into that flour like that. You'll have some chunks left in it because you definitely want some of those for your biscuits so that when those bake, you get those nice fluffy little pockets in there. But you want to incorporate about 80% of it into your flour. I'm going to continue to work on this, and I'll show you what this looks like when it comes out. I've got the butter worked into the flour now, and I wanted to show you what that looks like. So it has the consistency of like a cornmeal. And like you see here, there's still a few of the pieces of the butter in there, and that's what we want. So now I'm going to go grab me my buttermilk out of the refrigerator. We definitely want to keep that as cold as we can. And you can also, if your room is hot and your butter feels like it's melted a little bit, you can pop this back in the refrigerator, maybe 5 minutes, and kind of cool that butter back down again. Or if your hands are really hot, you might have melted the butter down, and that would be another reason why you want to put it back in the refrigerator. This feels pretty good. I'm going to go grab my buttermilk, and I'll be back, and we'll move on to the next step. All right, now that I've got my buttermilk here, I've got a spatula, and I'm going to put in my 2 cups of my buttermilk, or that's about 500 milliliters. And I'm just going to mix that together. We do not want to overwork this batter because we don't want to activate that gluten in there, because we do not want real dense biscuits. We want nice fluffy biscuits. And the reason I started out with this spatula is that way it kind of gets everything incorporated together and your hands aren't completely covered in the flour. So we just want to bring everything together until we don't see any of that loose flour on the bottom. And that looks good right there. We just want to bring it together. It is really wet at this point, but once we get it put together, it won't look like that very much longer. So I've got a seal mat here, and I'm going to bring this out, and we're going to put a little bit of flour on this seal mat. Now that I've got the flour on the seal mat, I'm going to take my dough out of my bowl and dump it out onto this mat. Now I'm going to let the seal mat do the work. So I'm just going to kind of raise it up on itself just like this, and we're going to push it together. And then I'm going to turn it 90 degrees, and we're going to do the same thing. And this, I'm just bringing it together to form a ball. I'm not actually kneading it, I'm just actually bringing it together. And you can see how it's already coming into that shape that we've got that in right there. So that is perfect. I'm going to put just a little bit of flour here on the side, and I'm going to pick up the dough. I'm going to put some on my hands also. Pick the dough up, and I'm going to turn it on itself just like that one time. And we'll pat it out. And then I'm going to do the same thing again, but now I'm going to bring it in from this side, from the opposite side, and pat it out. And I'm going to do that for about 5 to 6 times. And what we're doing by doing this is we're creating those layers that we're going to get on those biscuits. So you want those nice, tall, fluffy biscuits with those layers in them. That's what we're building right here. I'm going to put just a little bit more flour on my hand. And where we had folded it this way, we're going to come in, and I'll do it from this side and bring it in on top of itself, just like that. Now I'm going to pat it out now to about 3/4 of an inch to an inch is what we're looking for on the height of those. All right, now that I've got the height that I needed on those, I've got a biscuit cutter here, and I'm going to take just a little bit of flour and I'm going to put it into this bowl because I want to make sure that my biscuit cutter that I've got stays dry. So every time I put it onto my biscuits, I'm going to put just a little bit of flour on it, and I'm going to push it down onto the biscuit straight down and pull it straight out. And then you push it out with your hand. Now what we've got there, we've got those nice layers on our biscuits. We definitely want to keep them that way. So we're going to put them on our pan here. I've got a pan lined with a silicone mat. If you don't have that, you can put some oil or some type of butter or shortening on the bottom of your pan, or you can use a parchment paper on the bottom just to keep them from sticking. These are really nice. These are really pretty. And when you load your pan down, you want to put them as close as you can get them to each other. That way they'll help each other rise up. If you separate them on the pan, what I've found is they'll slide sideways on you. So if you put them close to each other on the side, and I'll show you what that looks like, what I've got here, they'll rise up on each other. So I'll continue to make my biscuits, and I'll show you what this looks like when I get them all finished. All right, now that I've got my biscuits cut out, I'm going to take my dough and I'm going to push it back together into that same configuration that I had before. I don't want to overwork this again, and I'm just going to turn it over on itself a couple times so that I can get it smoothed out again. All right, I've got that piece back together again, so we'll go back and keep doing the same thing until we get them all cut out. So I've got a little bit left of my dough here. I'm not going to throw that away. We'll just ball it up into a little ball like that, and I put that onto my pan, and I wanted to show you what it looked like. I've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, 14, or 13 and a half biscuits. I got a baker's dozen and a little bit of one. So at this point, until we get ready to start making our soup, I'm going to put some cling film over the top of this. This can go back in the refrigerator. Once we get started making the soup, we'll put this into that oven and bake these for 20 to 25 minutes on 425, and you'll have some beautiful biscuits. So by the time the biscuits gets done, and once we start cooking the soup, they'll be done at the same time. I'll be back and we'll get started making our soup. My chicken is done, and it did take 1 hour and 45 minutes for this chicken to cook today, and this looks absolutely delicious and smells incredible too. I know it's going to be really good from all those seasonings that I put on it earlier. So now we need to let this cool down. I did test it in several points to make sure that it had reached the 165 temperature Fahrenheit, and it had in fact done that. So when you're testing with your digital thermometer, make sure you're not touching any bones or anything like that, because that will give you a different temperature than what you got. So I'm going to set this to the side, and if you bought a rotisserie in the store, at this point go ahead and pull the meat off the rotisserie that you got, and we'll get that ready for the other vegetables that we're putting into our soup. Once we do this, this goes really quickly. You'll have your soup in under 30 minutes. I did go ahead and pull the chicken off the roaster here, and this extra chicken stock that I've got here will make a great gravy. So definitely, if you want to use that, you can use that for a gravy. I'm going to put this to the side and we'll get started working on our vegetables. Now let's get started making the ingredients for our soup. I was able to get 4 cups of the chicken pulled off of the bone. If you'd like more, you can definitely cook you another chicken breast or 2 to put in there if you like a really meaty soup. Or if you want to put some dark meat, you can put some of the dark meat in there as well. But I did get 4 cups of my chicken off of the bone. Now I'm going to start prepping an onion. I've got a medium-sized yellow onion here, and I'm going to go ahead and dice this up into small pieces. That one really affected me a lot with the juice that was coming out of that onion. So now let's go ahead and get ready to start chopping up our garlic now. And I've got 3 cloves of garlic here, and I'm going to mince those. I'm just going to take the end off of them just like that. I'm going to take the side of the knife with the palm of your hand. If you'll crush them like that, it'll pull that outside skin right off of them. Now I'm going to take that and mince the garlic. Now that I've got my garlic minced up, I'll move that to the side. And I've given my celery stalks here a good rinse. Make sure when you're cleaning those that you get down in there, because sometimes these get a lot of sand in them, and you definitely don't want that into your soup. So I'm going to cut the leaves off and the bottom white part off of it, and then I'm going to take it and cut it down into several pieces there and cut it down into bite-sized pieces. You want everything to be kind of the same shape so that it cooks down and you get a nice bite when you eat your soup. Now at that point, we've got everything chopped down like that. We just want to take it and just give it all the same equal size cuts. Now I've got 2 carrots here that I've given a wash, and I'm going to cut the tips off of these and the green part on the top. And then I've got a scraper here, and I'm going to scrape the outside of them off. Now that I've got the outside of those scraped off, I'm going to cut those up into the same bite-sized pieces as I've got my onions and my celery. All right, I've got my carrots chopped up now, and now I'm going to work on my 2 potatoes. I've got 2 Yukon Gold potatoes, and I'm going to take the skin off the outside of those as well. All right, now that I've got those peeled, I'm going to take those and cut those into the same size, bite-sized pieces that I've got for those other pieces. You want them a little bit bigger chunks, you can definitely do them that way. That way you get a nice bite. But for everything to cook really about the same time, I'm going to cut them all about the same size. All right, I've got my potatoes cut up now, so I'm going to go ahead and get my Dutch oven over here and we'll start cooking our soup. All right, I've got my Dutch oven now. I've got it up on high, and we'll take some olive oil. I'm going to put about a tablespoon of that in there. I have the oil heated up now, and I'm going to go ahead and add in my onion, my celery, and the carrots. And I've got my heat turned down now to medium. I'm going to saute these for about 3 to 4 minutes, just until they start getting soft. All right, it's been 4 minutes now, and my veggies are starting to soften up a little bit. So now I'm going to grab my garlic, and we're going to put that in, and we want to saute this for about 30 seconds to a minute. We don't want to saute it in there too much longer than that. That's why we didn't put it in there earlier, because it wants to have a tendency to want to try to burn. So about 30 seconds, you should start smelling it. Those aromatics will be releasing from that garlic. All right, I can smell that garlic releasing now. And I've got a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, or that's 30 grams, and we're going to add that in. We want to cook that for about 30 seconds to a minute until we can't see that flour anymore. All right, that looks good now. Let's add our potatoes in. And I'm just going to kind of mix these through just a little bit. Now I've got 6 cups of chicken stock measured out here. You want good quality chicken stock for this. If you've got some that you've made yourself, definitely use that at this point. If not, get you some good chicken stock, 6 cups. All right, I've got my chicken stock in there. I'm just going to give everything a good mix through, and I'm going to bring this up to a boil or a low simmer. Now I'm waiting for my stock to come up to a simmer there, or a light boil. I've got 1 8-ounce can of water chestnuts, and I'm just going to give these a rough chop. I drain these, and I really like the crunch that the water chestnuts give to this soup. And we'll give that a stir around. Now I'm not going to add any salt or pepper to this at this point. I want this to come to a boil and cook, and the potatoes to get almost fork tender, and then I'm going to check it to see if I need to add any seasoning. If you get any stock or broth that's got salt in it, you definitely want to taste your food before you put any more in it, because it could be already salty enough. All right, my soup has come up to a boil now. I wanted to show you what that looks like. I'm going to turn my heat down to a medium low, and we'll cook this with the lid on it between 12 to 15 minutes. And I'm going to check those potatoes, because that's what we're wanting to get done now. So you can stick a fork in the potatoes when they are fork tender, then your soup is ready to go, and we'll come back and we'll add the rest of our ingredients in. All right, let's check on our potatoes now and see where they're at. It's been about 15 minutes, and I'll grab one of the potatoes, and you can see that that just come apart like that. So that's fork tender. We know that our soup is done now. So now we're going to add in our chicken, and we just want to warm that up because it's already cooked. And I'm going to give that a stir around. And I've got a 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream. I'm going to add that in. And I'm going to let that cook for about 4 to 5 minutes and thicken up my soup as well and warm that chicken up. I'm going to put the lid back on it, and I'm going to turn it back down on a medium low. And if you're cooking your biscuits, mine just come out of the oven. I'm going to go put some melted butter on the top of them. Let's put the lid back on this, cook this for another 4 to 5 minutes, and we'll be ready to add in our last ingredients. Let's taste our soup now to see if we need to add any salt and pepper or any other seasonings that you would like. Let's give it a stir around now that we've had the chicken and that cream warming back up in there. Let's give it a taste test and see what we need. That is almost there. We need a little bit of salt and pepper in that, and that will be our soup of the day. So let's add that in now. And this will be soup to taste, whatever you like. Let's give those seasonings a stir through, and we'll add in our last ingredients. I've got 1 cup of frozen peas, and we'll add those in now. I've got a cup of frozen corn, and we'll add that in. And I've got about a 1/4 cup of parsley chopped up here, and I'm just going to add that in just like that. And we'll give that a stir through. I'm going to put the lid back on that, let that cook for a couple of minutes until those peas and carrots get nice and warm, and we'll be ready to plate this up. All right, I have straightened up a little bit now. Let's give this a taste test. I'm going to grab me a little bowl here and try it and let you know what it tastes like. I see all that chicken those peas, that corn, those carrots, those water chestnuts, that celery, all of those things are coming through. I know this is going to be delicious. Let's try it. That corn is really sweet. Those water chestnuts are adding that little bit of crunch to it that I really like in a soup. That chicken is cooked to perfection. I love that Emile Henry, how it cooks and roasts those chickens. That is really good. And this is just a really hearty, tasty soup. That is absolutely delicious. I know you're going to love this recipe. If you like this content, maybe you might consider giving me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And while you're at it, check out one of these other 2 videos over here on the side. You might find something else you like. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave me a comment. I want to know how your soup turned out. If you did anything different, let me know. I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye now.